Go.
Hey, do you know who these 22-inch guns belong to? They belong to Mr. USA, WWE Hall of Famer, Tony Atlas. And right now, you are listening and watching Hambone Hitter.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with WWE Hall of Famer Tony Atlas. Tony, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure being here. Awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Okay, we're going to ask you some questions about your career. What was your childhood like growing up?
Well, I was born in a little town called Clifton Forge, Virginia. Spent most of my childhood in a small town called Lowmore, Virginia. Now, Lowmore had one store called the Commissary. It was owned by the North and Western Railroad. So I raised up working on the farm, priming tobacco, cleaning out chicken coop, whatever we could do to get to work. My mother had 9 kids, 5 boys and 4 girls. So one of the things, when my dad left my mother when I was 2 years old, he left her with 9 kids. So my mother said, you kids have to learn how to take care of yourself, because I'm not going to always be here to take care of you. So at a very young age, we had to go out and work and earn our keep. My mother had an old saying, if you don't work, you don't eat. And that was because there wouldn't be enough food on the table to feed everybody. So we all had to chip in to get enough money to buy a loaf of bread. They didn't give kids money like they do now. To get 25 cents, you probably have to go and clean out a chicken coop to get 25 cents. You may have to go and shuck corn to get 25 cents. People didn't give money to kids that easily. So in order to make $1 back then, you had to do a full day's work to get $1. But it taught me good work ethic, and it also taught me that I live in the greatest country in the history of the world, the United States of America. And no matter how poor your beginnings are, if you work hard and you strive hard, you would be successful. So and we used to fight a lot. I mean, it was very common in the neighborhood. Nobody shot nobody or stabbed nobody. Everything was mano on mano. And the guys would fight you, but as long as you fought back and didn't run away, you got the respect of the guys in the neighborhood. So the object of the game was, it didn't matter if you win or lose the fight. The object was that you was man enough to stand up for yourself. And once people know that you was able to stand up for yourself and defend yourself, people have respect for you. So respect was, and even now today, from what I understand, respect is still very, very big in the neighborhood.
Okay, and what were your first memories of pro wrestling?
Believe it or not, we didn't have a television. So I knew absolutely nothing at all about wrestling. One day I was working out at the YMCA in Roanoke, Virginia. And a buddy of mine named Alfonso Johnson, he was into weightlifting. He took me to the gym. He started taking me to the gym. And I got trained by a guy called Jackie Cooper and Randy Booth. They both live in Roanoke. I hope they're still alive and everything. And they gave me my first routine. They paid for me to go to contests. They paid for me to compete. And they treat me like I was part of their family. Alfonso was African American. Randy Booth and Jackie Cooper was Caucasian. But in the weight room, we was all brothers. So I never had money to go to competition, so they took the competition. And I won a lot of competition, got my name in the paper. I was teenage Mr. Virginia, Virginia powerlifting champion, Virginia weightlifting champion, Virginia arm wrestling champion, and Virginia collegiate champion. So I had a lot of titles. And one day I'm in the gym working out with Alfonso, and a guy came to the gym by the name of Black Jack Mulligan. And the guy was giving Black Jack Mulligan a bunch of lip, because Black Jack was just doing reps. He wanted to do 4 sets of 12 with 225. So the guy said, hey, as big as you are, because Black Jack, for those that know him, about 6'8", 6'9", 350 pounds. They thought it was kind of hard. If they said, well, we got guys that can do more than Black Jack. Grabbed the guy by the neck, picked him up against the wall like this, and said, look here, guy, I want to come in here to work out. I've been traveling all night, I've been fighting all night, I've been drinking all night, and I just want to get a nice light workout and get ready for my match tonight. So I went downstairs. Alfonso introduced me to Black Jack Mulligan, and Black Jack said, well, I would tell the booker about me. So about a week or so later, the wrestlers came back to Roanoke. This time, it was a guy named Sandy Scott. But Sandy Scott was the brother of George Scott, and George Scott at that time was the booker of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Like I say, I have never been to a wrestling match or seen a wrestler a day in my life. So he said, we would like to make you a professional wrestler. So sure enough, they took me to Charlotte, North Carolina. My girlfriend, Loretta Myers, at the time, she gave me $20 to eat on, not knowing I was going to never come back. I thought I was going to go try out and come back home. When I left with $20 in my pocket, and then that's how I found out about professional wrestling when I became one. And the reason I didn't watch it, not because I didn't like it, I knew nothing about it, we didn't have a TV. We couldn't afford a TV. I came from a very, very poor existence. But lucky for me, the people that broke me in, the Crockett, George and Sandy Scott, Klondike Bill, Johnny Weaver, Paul Jones, Rufus R. Jones, and my favorite of all time, Ernie the Cat Ladd. These guys, they coached me, they helped me, Mr. Fuji, you know, to become what I am today.
Okay, now what was your early training like? Like, did you consider training very hard at the time, or were you kind of used to it because you were into the bodybuilding?
Well, to give you an idea of how they used to train wrestlers in the older days, you start off with a deck of cars. Now, there are 52 cars in a deck. So if a black car come up, you have to do push-ups. If a red car come up, you have to do what they call sumo squats. If a face car come up, then you would have to do 20. If it was a red, you know, you have to do them squats. If it was a black, you have to do push-up. So by the time, and then after you finish that, you have to go to the stadium, because it was a stadium there in Charlotte, North Carolina. You have to run up to the top of the football stadium, run across, run back down, and you have to do the whole stadium. By that time, you're about ready to puke yourself. Then they would put you on a mat with shooters. A shooter is what we call a bone breaker, or a guy that is really, really good at wrestling that could whoop your butt in real life. He was just a tough guy. So they put you on the mat with shooter, and they would do what we call stretch you. Stretch is another term for, they would hurt you. They make you scream, they make you holler. Bret Hart's father was known for that, Stu Hart. You know, he got off, and Stu Hart would get you down, and the more you holler, the more he enjoyed. You feel that? Watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. I feel. I mean, you would think you know, in the mental inside it. To be honest with you, when I first walked into the dressing room for my first day, it was like going to the Island Family or something, you know, because they wanted characters. So you see the strangest looking people from different countries, and they wanted people from different countries, from Canada, from Russia, from Germany. I mean, there were very few Americans, believe it or not, that was involved, that was actually wrestling. Most of them were Canadians, Russians, or Germans, or everything but American. We have very few Americans, you know, born in America that were true Americans. So, and then what they would do, you would have your first match. Now, your first match would be a shoot match. What I mean by that, everything you did was for real. I'll tell you about my first match with Bob Breggers, me and Bob Breggers against the Scorpion and Art Nelson. And Bob Breggers get in the ring, and he throw them guys around and everything, throw them all over the ring and stuff. I get in the ring, they stiffen up on me. They wrestled me for real. They wouldn't work with me. What a term work that wrestle you, they wouldn't work with me because I was not part of them yet. You know, you have to go through the hazing and everything. You have to prove yourself that you deserve this opportunity. So I kept trying to quit several times. I got to give him credit for it. Rocket Johnson, Dwayne Johnson's father, he talked to me and said, Tony, you got a great future in this business. You got a great body. You should not quit. No matter what they do to you, don't you quit. So God bless you, Rocket, for doing that for me. I know we had our turmoils in the past, but I always remember that it was for Rocket Johnson, I would have quit this business because the way I was treated. I mean, they would beat the crap out of you day in and day out. Just beat you, and beat you. And then they sat at the door and see if you would come back the next day. Well, I kept coming back. And one day I got Art Nelson in a headlock. And I squeezed his head just like I was all the strength in my body. And that time, even though I was young, I was able to bench press 500 pounds, so I was a pretty strong kid. So Art Nelson pulled out his gun and he told the promoter, if they don't smart him up, he's going to shoot me. So I didn't want to get shot. So George Scott said, "Told me we're going to teach you how to work." I said, "Work? I don't want to go to work. I want to be a wrestler." He said, "No, no, no. We're going to show you how to do it the easy way." So I go down to Park Center, and they started training me how to be a wrestler. Steve Kern was involved in that. He the one that taught me how to do a drop kick. Steve Kern did. And then Kim Patero came down and showed me some stuff. Mr. Fuji come down and showed me some stuff. So I started working with some of the wrestlers. And then one day, they sent me to Georgia to get some experience. I was supposed to get some experience. So as I'm wrestling, I did my match, I come back. They told me what I did wrong and what I need to improve on. And then Ole Anderson come running up to me. I used to wrestle as Black Atlas. I was under the hood. I wore a mask. So he said, "Tony, get your ass out there and help Tommy Rich." Tommy Wildfire Rich had just came in for the first time. So I ran to the ring. I didn't know what to do. I'm a green kid. Abdullah said, "Slam me, kid." So I picked up Abdullah. For any people that have seen Abdullah, Abdullah's a big round guy. He's not easy to grab or pick up. And I picked him up to give him a slam. Well, I forgot to tie my mask. And because I forgot to tie my mask, when I slammed Abdullah, the mask came off. And that was the beginning of Tony Atlas.
Okay, now, when you worked for NWA Mid-Atlantic, how were the backstage politics? Did you experience any racism in the locker rooms?
We would not call it racism because everybody got it. If you was Polish, you would hear a lot of dumb Polak jokes. Just like Tito Santana, the guy we wrestled him and said, "Give me 2 tacos, 1 enchilada, and get it again." So they made fun of ethnic groups, not just black. So nobody was immune from it, you know. I would say one of the worst things that went on in wrestling was sexism. I mean, I always felt that the women, up until now, never got the opportunity and the push and the investment was never made into the women wrestler the way that it did in the men wrestler. Wendy Rickman was a big name. She was over just as much as Hogan, but yet they didn't push Wendy to her full potential the way they pushed Hogan. They didn't push Moolah to her attention the way they pushed Bruno Sammartino. So I say it was more sexism so much than racism, but there were racism. It was a lot of it, but it wasn't aimed strictly at black people. It was like anybody, everybody was fair game, and you had to be thick-skinned. I mean, I was called nigger so many times that one day a guy took and said, "Hey, Tony," I kept walking. I didn't know who the hell he was talking to. But I was just so used to being called that I was kind of like immune to it. That's just how people talked in the 70s. And it wasn't just in the wrestling world. I mean, I went to restaurants, I go to the street, I even had wrestling fans to come up to me and say, "Boy, you one of the best nigger wrestlers I ever seen." You know, that's a fan. He's asking me for my autograph, but he's calling me a nigger at the same time he asking me for my autograph. So I don't think they saw it as racism. The only way that a black person could get in trouble when I first started wrestling is to mess with a white girl. As long as you left them white women alone, you got along pretty good with them old guys. I rolled up and down the road with Dick Murdoch, who was very proud of being a member of the KKK. You know, he had no bones about it. And he told me, he said, "Tony, you don't have to worry about me because you know what I am and what I stand for and what I believe in." He said, "The ones you got to worry about, the ones that laugh with you, joke with you, eat with you, and go to more KK meets than I do." He said, "Them the ones you got to worry about." He said, "You don't have to worry about me because you know me." He said, "You know how I feel about that." But Murdoch became one of my best friends because I learned a lot about white supremacy from Dick Murdoch. I learned a lot about the KKK from Dick Murdoch. So when I talked to Dick Murdoch, I didn't take it as, "I don't like this guy." I took it as, what an education. Because my mother said, never judge a person until you're able to walk in his own shoes. So I was able to understand, I learned from being with Murdoch and other people how to, just like the Aaron Sheik, he really from Iran. So he used to get teased, they call him ragheads and all this stuff because he was already, Alvin Puskett, he was Polish. He used to always get picked on for being Polish. You know, he's supposed to be dumb. I don't know, but he's supposed to be the dumb Polak jokes, you know, and stuff. They used to say them around him. And when they called, "Hey, you dumb Polak," you know. And then Lou Albano used to even though he was Italian, he would use a lot of racial Italian slurs, you know. I don't have the right to say it because I'm not Italian, but he would say things that most Italian people don't like being called. But Abdul, you know, he would do it. So I wouldn't say that there was racism. I think it was just a culture of the time.
Okay, now what did you think of Ole Anderson as a booker? How did you think his mind was for the business?
Ole Anderson, a lot of people didn't like him, but everybody that didn't like Ole Anderson never played sports. He was like an old-fashioned coach. And that's how the coaches was in over there. They would slap you, kick you in the butt, call your name. You know, now if a coach do half of the stuff they did, you know, in the 60s and 70s, they would not only fire him, they put him in jail. But I thought Ole Anderson was the smartest person one of the smartest people I've seen in business. There would never been a WCW winner for Ole Anderson. A lot of people don't know Ole Anderson was the creator of WCW. And it was so sad that they kicked him to the curb. Once they got rid of Ole Anderson, the business went to shit, to make it honest, man, you know. But Ole was very, very outspoken. He was honest. I asked him one time, I said, Ole, how was my match? It was the shits. You know, I told him, I said, Ole, and I get paid for a match. He said, if you get paid for that match, you're stealing money. You know, he would say stuff like that. He had no filter. So a lot of people didn't like that about Ole. Me, I was used to it because I was raised up in the sports world. I had rough and tough coaches. But Ole would bring out the best in you. He would bring out, he's the one that created Tommy Wildfire Rich, and he's the one that created Tony Atlas. He was the one that created Abdullah the Butcher, and everybody you see on Georgia Championship Wrestling was created by Ole Anderson. Now with the Mid-Atlantic, everybody that was created by George Scott. Ric Flair was created by George Scott. You see what I'm saying? Greg Valentine, George Scott. So all of us got guys that we cannot take credit for our success because these was the guys. Ole Anderson was the main. You're going to read a lot about him. If you buy my book, you would read a lot about Ole Anderson in my book, and I got a lot of respect for Ole Anderson. I think he was one of the best things that ever happened in my career.
Okay, now from Mid-Atlantic, you went on to make your WWF debut in 1979. Now, you faced Johnny Rods. Now, how did that come about, getting into WWF?
Everybody the first day faced Johnny Rods. Vince Jr., we do that because Johnny Rods wrestlers are that determined. You have to make Johnny sell. Johnny hate doing jobs. So Johnny would intentionally beat the hell out of you out there. And if you can't fight back, Johnny would eat your lunch. He would chew you up. So everybody's first match in the WWF at that time was against Johnny Rods. And the reason Vince Sr. done that is to see how well you could take care of yourself in the ring. Because they have pushed a lot of guys that was big draws, but then they get a beef with one of the guys that is a jobber, and the jobber go out and kick the crap out of the big superstar there, and it killed the promoter money. So they did not want to put nobody on top that could not really take care of themselves in real life. Johnny Rollins was a tester. He was the one you have to get through in order to become a top or main eventer or top wrestler or superstar. Otherwise, they would never promote you if you can't take care of yourself right. Because there was a lot of guys that didn't want to work with you. So you get a guy in the ring, no matter what the promoter tell him, you know, he's going to do what he wants to you in that first 13 or 14 minutes if you can't stop him. You know, in fact, if y'all look at a couple of matches, I'm not knocking the guy. One time I didn't want to lose to Randy Savage. So what I do, I kicked the crap out of him for about 10 minutes before I let him do what he wanted to do. I did the same with Paul Orndorff. I did it with a lot of people, but I didn't because I didn't want to lose to him. Okay. And Johnny Rods was that type of guy. He was just like me. You know, he didn't like losing. So you had to earn it. If you beat Johnny Rods, you earned every. That was the toughest match. Let's put it this way. My match against Johnny Rods was the toughest match I had the whole time I was in the WWF.
Okay, what were some of your early matches with Hulk Hogan that you did in 1980, 1981? How was Hulk Hogan?
My first match, believe it or not, with Hulk Hogan was with Georgia Championship Wrestling. Tommy Wildfire Rich went to Ole Anderson and said, Ole, you should work a little anger with this guy and Tony. He said because at the old days the heel was always bigger than the baby face, where most of the big guys had left and went to either AWA or WWF at that time. So Georgia did not have a lot of big guys because Jim Barnett, the owner, was also gay. So he wanted all the pretty boys to wrestle. He didn't want the big brute, the big ugly guys on TV anymore. So Hulk Hogan, I first met him when he was in Georgia. And then when I went to the WWF, he was a heel. He was managed by Classic Freddie Blessed. And all my matches with Hogan, I remember Vince Sr. telling me this. He said, you're gonna wrestle this guy tonight, Tony? He said, do whatever you want to the big dummy. And Hogan was standing in the room. See what I'm saying? They had absolutely no respect for Hogan at that time. They had no plans for him, you know. Until he, of course, as you know, he made the movie Rocket, and then from there, he went to AWA, became a big star in AWA. So if anybody got the credit for making Hulk Hogan, it's Vern Gagne and Sylvester Stallone. What Vince did, he took what they developed and he used it to his advantage. But he did not create Hogan. Hogan was created before he came there. He was made, the guy that really should take credit that struck the match was Sylvester Stallone in the Rocket movie. That made Hogan worldwide. I mean, he was the most well-known wrestler in the world after the movie. And then from there, AWA took him in, and he was selling out St. Paul, he was selling out Minnesota, he was selling out Chicago, he was selling out Las Vegas. Everywhere they took this guy, it was a complete sellout. So, of course, Vince saw that, and Vince stole Hogan from Vern Gagne.
Okay, and then from there, you went on the tag with Rocky Johnson. Now, how was your tag title run? How did that team come about, and how did you get along with Rocky?
Me and Rocky didn't get along at all. We fought each other, fist fights in the dressing room. We didn't get along. The only time me and Rocky got along was in the ring. So after I had left the WWF and Rocky left the WWF, Rocky was on the autograph signing with me. And the promoter was scared to book me. He said, I got Rocky there. He said, I'm not going to have no trouble out of you guys in it. I said, no. So me and Rocky, we got to talking. And what the wrestlers would do, of notice, they would come to me and they said, Tony, Rocky said this about you. Then they go to Rocky and say, Rocky, Tony said this about you. But we ready, by the time we got together, we ready to kill each other. And then Rocky told me what they just said that I said. I said, Rocky, I never said any of that. I said, Rocky, they say you say this. And then Rocky said, I didn't say none of that, Tony. So we was not smart we thought people was our friend, but a lot of people we thought was our friend was, and then the guy that really tried to help both me and Rocky was Chief J. Strongbow. The Chief kept telling, you guys got to learn to get along. He said, everybody that tell you this stuff, they want what you guys got. They want you guys to fight each other so that Vince would pull you apart and they would end up with the belt. Showing up, the two people that did the most talking, that did the most, were the two guys that ended up with the belt, Murdoch and Adrian Adonis. And Murdoch used to tell me all type of stuff that Rocky said. Come to find out, Rocky didn't say none of it. And Adrian would tell Rocky a lot of stuff, because they wanted a title. See, the boys will work you. If they can't beat you in the ring, then there's many ways of getting yourself to the top. You get to the top on your own merits. Me and Rocky got to the top on our own merit. Murdoch was a hell of a wrestler. Adrian Adonis got on top for screwing other people. And there was a lot of guys would mess you up intentionally. Like Mr. Fuji, if he didn't like you, he would take a cookie and put LSD in it. LSD in a cookie. They said, oh, my girlfriend, my wife, my girlfriend, my mom, or whoever made these great cookies. And boy, they delicious. Wait, you don't taste LSD. You bite that cookie, and all of a sudden, damn room starts spinning around on you. And here comes the promoter. Tony, it's time for your match. You floating on freaking cloud nine. You don't even know where the freaking bathroom is at. So they have to move your match, throw you in the shower, and try to sober you up so you can wrestle that night. You know, and it was dangerous because Uncle Elmer would give guys pill. He gave me a pill one day, and I'm driving down the road in Junkyard Dog, Tony Atlas, and Mike Rotunda. Mike Rotunda is the father of Way Wide, or now they call him the Fiend, right? The Fiend. That's Mike Rotunda. Where Mike didn't drink, he didn't do any drugs. So we ride down the street, and I'm all over. I must be driving erratic or something, because JYD is looking at me real funny. He had a beer in his hand, and he never took a sip. He kept me like this, looking at me, holding that beer. So I said, man, there's a lot of 18-wheelers out here. Look at all them big trucks. Dog, truck, how many trucks you see? I said, oh, it gotta be at least 5 or 6 trucks out here. You see 5 or 6 trucks? I go, yeah. Pull over right now. Pull over. So I pulled over off the road. I said, what's wrong, dog? He said, Tony, there's only 1 truck. Mike Rotunda said, well, it's a good thing he didn't try to pass one of them. You know? So dog said, Mike, get him, you take over, you drive, Mike. I'm sitting there stoned, don't know where the hell I'm at. Talking about, where's my rental car? I'm driving. The dog said, no, you getting out. So Mike Rotunda, and they put me in the back seat, and Rotunda drove us in. But they guys would do that for a rib. Johnny Valentine, one time, a guy went into the ring, and he had asthma. So Johnny Valentine waited for him to get in the ring. He took the asthma thing, took all this stuff out and put lighter fuel in it. So the guy come back to hit his asthma stuff and sucked that lighter fuel and nearly killed the guy. To them, that was a rib. That was a joke. Ronnie Goblet would wait until you go into the ring, and he would go and take a crap in your bag as a joke. So now you got to clean all the feces off your bag. Mr. Fuji would get combination locks and put it on all your clothes. To these guys, that was ribs, you know. They like I say, I'll tell you some of the other people earlier today. Back in those days, we didn't go to movies, we didn't go to clubs, we didn't go out partying. We worked 7 days a week. So the wrestlers had to entertain each other. We was our own entertainers. Sometimes it was not bad, but most of the time, most of the ribs were not good ribs. You know, they were very bad ribs, you know.
Okay, now you tag team with Andre the Giant a few times at WWF. What were your thoughts of Andre the Giant? How did you get along with him? And do you have any entertaining stories about him?
Andre was very, very educational for me. Andre will love you as long as you don't mention his size. And I never understood that until one day he told me this. He said, Tony, do you think a midget like to be called shorty? He knew he's short. You think he'd like you to call him that? I said, no, I don't think he would like that. He said, I don't like to be called big. He did not like to be called big. So me and him became the best of friends, And that's why I teamed with Andre. I didn't have a decision on being with Andre. Andre wanted me to be his partner. I used to go to Andre. At that time, I was really into the weightlifting and the steroids and everything. And I had 23.5-inch arms. And Andre had 22-inch arms. So I used to always tease Andre, hey, Andre, my arm's bigger than yours. And he fell in love with me because he felt I didn't treat him any different than anybody else. And that never dawned on me. And Andre always disliked people because every time somebody said, look how big his hands are, look how big his feet is, look how big his head is, and he hated that. But as long as you treated Andre like an ordinary, he always wanted to be a regular person. He always tell you how much Andre liked me. I was in Japan and I lost my passport. So I had to run around and get a new passport. So one day I'm getting on the bus in Japan and Andre said, hey boss, you come, you sit with Andre. So I go sit with Andre. So all the guys get on the bus and then Dick Murdoch got on the bus. And when Dick Murdoch got on the bus, Andre said, hey Murdoch, I hear you lose your passport. Now we got 2 dumb niggers on the bus. He called a claimsman a nigger, but that's what Murdoch was saying about me. I didn't know that. And Andre didn't like it. Andre didn't like anybody that talked about me. So that was Andre's way of getting back at Dick Murdoch. And he would stand up for me too, you know, in the dressing room. Leave him alone, that's my friend. Don't mess with my friend. So if you ever see pictures of me and Andre, we always hugging and laughing and joking, you know. I loved him. I loved Andre. To me, Andre was family. I loved him to death.
Okay, now you went on to have a feud with Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Now you also had a few pose downs that were on TV. What was that like?
It was Vince McMahon way of screwing Tony Atlas. What he did, he had it all planned for Orndorff to throw cake in my face and make me look stupid. Everything that Vince Jr. did for me is to make me look stupid. And that's why Paul Orndorff took off running, because he knew that I was going to do something to him for doing that. I had no idea. He knew that. I'll tell you another thing, how when Vince Jr. first started messing with me. There's a tape on YouTube where Hogan come out in the robe. I had no idea that Hogan was going to come out there. I had no idea what Hogan would do. Vince would tell people to go do stuff to me, just to piss me off. Vince Jr. in my earlier years when his father was trying to get me fired, back when his father was running things, I never knew that until later on in my life. See, as we get older, we look back on things, and we say, why would he do that? One time, I was doing that TNT for Vince Jr., and I said, Vince, I'm going to catch my flight now, and I'm trying to do right. I'm trying my best to do right, not to mess up, because I'm already on the shit list, so I don't want to fuck up. He said, I want you to wait for JYD. I said, Vince, please, I beg you. I don't want to go with Dog. I said, you know what Dog do. I said, I don't want to get involved with drugs no more. I'm done with drugs. Do not put me with JYD, please, I beg you. Well, it's your place to make sure he gets to the show, and I want you with him, okay? He said, we're going to be on a private jet. I said, Vince, I got my ticket here. I said, I could be in the airport on the flight in 30 minutes. Please, Vince. I begged him. I actually begged him to please let me go to the town. The town was, it was a return match against King Kong Bundy. Now, the month before I put Bundy put me over to work it was a DQ, it wasn't a pinfall, it was a DQ, to work the return, because I was a big name in St. Louis at that time, because they had a very large black population for wrestling fans in St. Louis, Missouri. I begged Vince not to to keep me away from Dog. What do you think Vince did? He said, well, you have to do this. So I got in a car with Dog, we get on the Lear jet, and the limousine come to pick us up. Dog tell the limousine driver, take him to the hood. So the limousine driver took him to the hood. Dog went in and got his cocaine. He's smoking cocaine all the way to the building. We got to the building so late. When I got to the building, George Wells took my place. Bundy was coming out of the ring. JYD did his match. Vince turned to me and said, well, you know you're in trouble for missing your match. I said, Vince, I would have never missed it if you just let me do my thing. I said, I told you that guy do this. I said, you know he do this. You always try to set me up to fail. But for some reason, it never worked for him. I don't know why, maybe because, I don't know, but Vince Jr. never did nothing good for me. Vince Sr. made Tony Atlas. Vince Sr. put the belt on us, Vince Jr. took him off.
Okay, for the first WrestleMania in 1985, you weren't on the card. You were a big name at the time. Is there any reason that you weren't on the show?
You talking about WrestleMania 1? Not only I wasn't on the card, I was there. Vince gave me $2,000 not to walk into the building. He had Honor Scola to wait there for me. I'm walking into the building with my bag. Honor Scola said, oh, Vince want to use you for the next one. He said, he want to use you for the next one. He said, you're not wrestling tonight. So, you know, being a young kid, I had a night off. I had this beautiful girl hanging around. I said, I just go out and enjoy myself. I never thought nothing of it. He gave me $2,000 not to come into the building on WrestleMania 1. I'm the only wrestler that was paid not to come to WrestleMania, because I was supposed to work with Bundy. Well, why didn't Vince want me to go and put Bundy over? Well, there was something that happened. There's a tape on on the internet. Somebody showed it to me. Bundy, I wrestled him before he became Bundy. When he was wrestling under his real name, Chris. He had long hair and he got a purple jumpsuit on. You like a one-piece suit? I press slammed Bundy. And Vince knew that if I got in the ring with Bundy on WrestleMania 1, I would have press slam Bundy. Now, for me, at 280 pounds, to press slam a 460 pound man, what could follow that? You understand? What can follow that? I would have stole the show. Vince didn't want me on WrestleMania 1. I was there. I was at the hotel. I was dressed. I was going to getting ready to get in the cab, and these some on the scooter to the hotel to stop me from coming to the match.
Okay, now speaking of the next WrestleMania.
It's funny you mentioned that. People don't know that.
Yep. Now going on to the next WrestleMania, which is WrestleMania 2 in 1986. Now you were involved in a battle royal with the NFL players. Do you think they had any business being in the wrestling ring? They weren't trained. And how did it feel being eliminated by William Perry of all people?
Well, there's a picture on the internet. If you watch that real closely, I gotta tell you a funny story about that. This is a true story. If you ever talk to William Perry, you know that when he got inducted in the Hall of Fame, who name he mentioned? Tony Atlas, right?
Yep.
Why did he mention my name? He'd never been off his feet. I picked him up. This is what William Perry said to me. He said, you know this is all staged, don't you? I said, no, ain't nobody told me nothing. I got him up like this, and he's trying to climb up my arm. I'm telling him, I said, brother, hold still. Before I said, I'll drop you on your head or something. I said, hold still. Oh, no, nobody told you nothing. I said, nobody told me nothing. He was scared to death. So then Vince, some word, see the referee got a little microphone in the ear. He said, get Tony out of there. He said, get him out of there. I was going to press slam him. I wasn't going to slam him, but I had him here, see? And I was going to just pick him up like that. I was going to send him on the turnbuckle. That's what I was going to do, to show people, you know, athletes. They want to see athletes. When I wrestle, if you look in the audience, this is what the fans used to do all the time. And then Hulk Hogan stole it from me. They used to do this. Remember? They want to see the press out. They didn't care about my drop kick. They didn't care about my body. They didn't care about nothing I did. My nickname would pick them up, throw them down, Atlas. And that's what people used to do.
Now, how was the backstage with those NFL players? I mean, they were never in a wrestling locker room before. How did you get along with them?
They was great guys. Too Tall Joe. They showed the boys a lot of respect, you know, for what we did. They was great guys, and most of us, we were marked for these guys because, you know, I just watched William Perry win the, I'm a football fan. I love football. So, you know, to be there with William Perry, to me, that was a great honor. You know, Too Tall Jones and all these guys, these were some of the top MFL football players in the world. They wasn't like, you know, your second class great guys. You know, William Perry was probably one of the best, you know, football players, you know, during that period of time. So I thought it was absolutely great. And they treated us with the utmost respect. They were wonderful guys. I got nothing bad to say about none of them guys.
Okay, now a few people wanted me to ask you this question. Now, around 1986, there was a scandal involving Mel Phillips, who was the ring announcer at the time, and Terry Garvin. Now, did you hear anything about that backstage? Were there rumors?
I didn't have to hear.
I mean, did you ever not see anything, but did you have any knowledge, or did you think
we all did? Everybody in the WWF knew what was going on. See, Mel Phillips would go get the guys. He was like the guy would go get them for these other guys, for Pat Patterson and all these other guys that like to do all these gay guys. So Mel Phillips would go get the guys for them. What happened with Mel Phillips when the shit hit the fan? Mel Phillips took the fall. He was like the fall guy. But he was not involved with the kids. He was the one that would go get them for them. You understand? Just like in our drug days, none of us went on the corner to get drugs. There was wrestlers that would bring the drugs to the dressing room. You understand what I'm saying? Mr. Fuji was one of the biggest drug dealers in professional wrestling. Whatever you want, you go to Fuji. Fuji give you whatever you want. You want cocaine, you want pot, whatever you want, you go to Fuji to get it. So we didn't have to go on the street to get anything. So if we want sex, there was guys who go get sex for you. So Mel Fuller was like the go-between between all these gay office workers.
Okay, now soon after that, in 1986, you had your departure from the WWF. Now, what was the reasoning for that?
There was none. I asked Vince why he fired me. He said, it's mountain. He said the reason he fired me because the other guys figure, because I screwed up early, because I walked out on them earlier. Before me and Rocky got the belt, I walked out on them. And so he said, if I could walk out on him and come back and keep a top position, other guys would feel that they could do it too. Vince, these are his words. Tony Atlas, I can't use you on bottom because you're too good. I can't use you on top. And I can't use you on top. And he walked away. So if you can't use me on top, and can't use me on bottom, and that happened after the match with Adrian Adonis. See, he tried to job me out, Vince did. He tried to make a jobber out of it. So what ended up happening was when we wrestled Adrian Adonis in Madison Square Garden, if you listen real close, when I put over Adrian Adonis in Madison Square Garden, everybody in that audience, everybody was hollering out, bullshit, bullshit. So Vince had a person in the ring that he could not destroy in the ring. You understand what I'm saying? See, in order they put you in the ring, they destroy you in the ring first, and then they let you go. But he could never destroy Tony. I'll tell you something that's real funny. 2006, I'm being inducted in the Hall of Fame. My wife, Monica, saw Vince for the first time in her life. She didn't even know who he were. The first time in her life, didn't even know who he were. So when he walked away, my wife said, you be careful of that man. He wants to destroy you. I said, Monica, that's Vince. Oh, is that Vince? She didn't know who he were.
But she saw.
She felt it. She felt it. She said, that man don't like you. He want to destroy you. She said, and this is another thing my wife said too that was weird. She said, are y'all related? Because people on my father's side is Scottish, Irish. You know, I'm mixed. Most blacks in America are. They don't know it, but they do the DNA, they found out. But anyway, come to find out later that Vince didn't like his father that much. But his father loved me. So anything that was connected to his father, if you notice, Vince destroyed everything Vince Sr., Captain Lou Albano, he told all the guys, everything that was created by Vince Sr., Jr. tried to destroy. I was created by Vince Sr., not Vince Jr. So Vince always had it out, how can I destroy Tony Atlas? Well, look at the last thing he did with me. He brought me back as Saba Simba, made me look like something I wasn't. He dressed me up to bounce around. Then he bring back again with Mark Henry. I was supposed to be Mark Henry manager. I was more like Mark Henry flunky than the manager. Mark Henry insulted me every show. You watch all the tape. Mark Henry never treated me good on tape. Off tape, Mark Henry treated me like gold. On tape, he treated me like shit. He put me on the Abraham Washington show to do a laugh. Everything to make me look stupid, Vince would do it. In Legend House, they had it scripted for Tony Atlas. I hear him on there. We told God rest, bless you, Piper, bless you, Piper. He got heat from there. Hillbilly Jim got heat too because Hillbilly Jim would not badmouth me. So when they invited all the Legend House people to Wrestlemania, the two people, if you look at that, when they invite the Legend House guy, the two people that did not show up were Tony Atlas and Hillbilly Jim. Because Hillbilly Jim would not badmouth me. Then, when they doing the reunion show, they told me, oh, Tony, we got a separate room for you. They put me in a separate room by myself. And they got the monitor there. And I hear the narrator say, that Tony Atlas is an asshole, ain't it? And Piper said, no worse than anybody else. He said, he's an asshole, ain't it? And Piper said, I like him. And he said, but Piper, don't you think he's an asshole? And Piper said, okay, he's an asshole. Is that what you want me to say? You understand what I'm saying? Piper did not want to say that about me. You understand? But they forced him. They wanted everybody out there. Then you watch everybody talk. Hillbilly Jim never said nothing bad about me. And neither did Piper. Piper always said, well, you know Tony, he's a bodybuilder. That's about the only thing he kept saying about it. But nothing really, really bad about me. But they try to make me look, they created that show and wanted me to be the jerk, the asshole, the prick. You know what I'm saying? See, even then. But when the show aired, the producer said, Tony, you are the show. You made the show. You understand? That's why he never did a WrestleMania 2. How can you do a 2 and leave us out of it? How can you do that? You can't. See?
Okay, now after WWF, you went to AWA. What was that like? How was the transition?
Vern Gagne treated me like gold. Like gold. But Tony Atlas being not too smart in them days, kind of stupid. I'm still kind of stupid, but not as stupid. I got a phone call from Vince McMahon Jr. He said, Tony, we got this African trip that we want you to be a part of. And I said, well, let me talk to Vern about it. So I talked to Vern. Vern said, I don't mind you doing the trip, but are you coming back? That's what Vern asked me. Are you coming back? I said, yeah, I'm coming back. Now you got to think about it. That Vern got so mad at me that he don't even mention it. Me and Jumpin' Jim Bronzell, we beat the Legion of Doom for the AWA Tag Team title. So when I left, Bruiser Brody put me over. We had matches, me and Brody, and Brody, I didn't pin him, but I won by DQ. So I whooped everything he had there. Mr. T used to come to every Chicago show and come out to the dressing room and hang out with me. And I got pictures of me and Mr. T together. We were the best. And in fact, Kurt Hennig told Vern that he should make Mr. T my manager for the next Chicago show. And Vern words were, all we need is a damn actor in this business. But getting back to what happened with me and Vern, so I told Vern that I'm going to do this Africa trip and I'll be back. So when I get there, I should have known. I should have never got on the plane. My mistake. I should have known. I had a one-way ticket to Toronto, Canada. And Vince said, oh, don't worry about it. The rest of your stuff is here. Your stuff for Africa is here. When you get here, we just want to make sure you come here first before we give you the rest. So, he want me to be on TV. So now I'm really thinking. I said, wait a minute, why would Vern want me on Vince McMahon TV? It don't seem right. So Vince said, oh, go ahead and do it. He said, Vern know everything. I have talked to Vern. Vern know everything. So I went and wrestled and everything. So Vince was leaving. I don't have no Africa ticket. So here come the agent and said, well, you know the Africa trip been canceled. And I said, well, since it's been canceled, y'all gonna give me a ticket so I can go back to Vern? And Vince said, well, it's my understanding that once you accept the Africa trip, you accept to come back here. I said, well, I need to call Vern if I'm gonna stay here. And he said, don't worry about it, Tony. You okay with Vern? I have already talked to Vern. 2006, I sat and talked to Vern Gagne. You know what Vern told me? He asked me, he said, why you didn't come back? And I said, they told me, Vern, that you knew. Vern said, I knew nothing. He said, I knew nothing.
Now, do you think that's because Vince didn't want you making any money for another promoter?
Exactly. He knew because I was selling out everywhere. I sold out Chicago. Everywhere Vern put me was a sellout, just like WWF. Everywhere I went, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Mid-Atlantic, I sold out buildings everywhere I went. I was a good drawing card. Of course he pulled me out of there. And then he took me and tried to jar me out them few years. But it was hurting his business because nobody believed that the guys he wanted me to put over could really beat me. They didn't believe it. So all they Vince could do was blackball me. And if some other promoter picked me up during that time, Vince would run shows. Let's say, for example, with Mario Savoda, he ran the Augusta Civic Center. Vince would book a show. If Mario is in there on a Saturday night, Vince would book the show Friday night, the night before, same building. You understand? And he would tell promoter, if you use that Tony Atlas, if you use him, I'm going to get rid of you. When I went to AWA, Cowboy Bill Watts told me the same thing. He said, there's a lot I want to do for you, Tony. He said, but Dusty Rhodes is in the way. Because Dusty was working with WCW and WWF on the side. You understand what I'm saying? He was working out a deal for himself with WWF. But when WCW left, where did Dusty go? You see? And Dusty was my friend. But Dusty had to do what Dusty had to do to take care of Dusty. If Dusty didn't do that, if he didn't do anything, Dusty was writing out the strip for me to do, for me to say. He had me to call Ron Summer or Porch Buck and all this other stuff to get me kicked off TV. So all the black group wrote in and said, we want Tony Atlas off the TV, calling Ron some more porch monkey. But Dusty told me to call him that. He had me to go out there and do Big Van Vader, whatever his name was. He had me to go out there with him to lose in an arm wrestling match. I said, Dusty, that's all I got left. I said, y'all don't job me out, y'all don't beat me down. The only thing I got left is my strength. Now you're going to take that away? Oh, don't worry about it, Tony. Everybody know in real life you can beat him anyway. He said, nobody going to believe that what was that, Kevin Nash. He said, nobody going to believe with his little buggy whoop arms can really beat you. And so Vince, from day one, he always was out to destroy Tony Atlas.
And speaking of that, he had you doing a few dumb things. I don't know if you remember this, but they had you in the music video with all the different wrestlers, and they were singing the song "The Land of a Thousand Dances." Did you think that was a joke, being in those music videos?
I never seen it.
You don't remember it? It's on YouTube. A lot of people are.
I have never seen it.
Yeah. You're behind Bundy and next to SD Jones.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I'll show it to you later.
I never seen it. No.
Okay, now.
And that was what year?
That was 87, 86.
See what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So
And
he had a haul off for me.
Yeah.
But for some reason, something always pop up for me. And he just can't understand why people show such an interest in him. Why he can't get rid of me. Get me out of it.
And after that brief stint, you went on the World Class. Now, how was that? What were your thoughts of the Von Erichs in general? I mean, a lot of people think that since Fritz, ran it, his boys were always at the top. And a lot of the rumors were that if you started getting bigger than the Von Erichs, they'd bring it down. Is that true?
True.
Okay.
True.
What was that like? Like,
I liked it. I liked it a lot. The problem was, I talked to Kevin. Kevin said I'm knocking him, my bad mouth, but I'm not. I'm just trying to tell the truth. Me and the Ultimate Warrior was tag team partner. He was the Dingo Warrior then. For 3 months, we sat in a hotel room. They wouldn't book us for 3 months. Me and the Ultimate Warrior sat in the hotel room. Warrior finally got a call from Japan. Vince heard about them not using him, so Vince brought the Dingo Warrior to WWF and made him the Ultimate Warrior. And of course, I left and went to Puerto Rico. But they stopped booking that. They just stopped. Just all at once. See what happened, Curry Von Erich was in an accident. When Curry was coming back, what do Curry Von Erich, Tony Atlas, and the Ultimate Warrior have in common? Physique. Physique. And me and Ultimate Warrior had the biggest physique. I was 286 pounds, the Warrior was 280 or 290 pounds. Von Erich was probably about 250. So we dropped him in the ring. He wasn't a big muscle man when he stood next to the Ultimate Warrior and Tony Atlas. He just wasn't. He had a great physique, great wrestler, but appearance-wise. So the most territory is not just the Von Erich. A lot of guys, like if they got one muscle man, they didn't want two. You see what I'm saying? They figured they draw more money with one muscle man than they can with two. And back in them days, having physique was like a gimmick. Because most of the guys didn't have that type of physique in the old days,
Okay, now a lot of people don't.
But they was great guys. I have no bad feeling toward the Von Erich. Fritz was a great guy and everything. But the guy that, believe it or not, the booker at that time was Bruiser Brody. And I called Bruiser out for a fight. I was going to fight him my last night there. And he wouldn't come out to fight me. I thought at that time he was afraid of it. So when I got to Puerto Rico, Bruiser Brody told me, he said, I had nothing to do with Tony. He said, I wanted to use you, but they told me if I use you, then I was going to lose my job. He said, that's why I didn't book you and the Warrior. But me and the Warrior, we both thought that it was Brody doing it to us. But we forgot that the booker only do what the promoter tell him to do.
Okay, now moving on to Puerto Rico. Now, when you met Brody in Puerto Rico, there was a little heat because you thought about he wasn't using you on the show.
Right.
Now, the day in question with, when Brody got murdered, can you tell us how that day started, how that all came about?
Well, you can tell by the way Brody looked, he likes to work out. He loved to work out. He loved to do squats and He was like me. He loved to go to the gym. So we was at the gym, and I just ignored him because I was determined not to get in trouble. Because this is my last go round. You know, if I screw up Puerto Rico, where I'm going to go? This is it for me, I thought. And they were paying me good money. I mean, I was working 4 days a week, and I was averaging about 100 grand a year, working 4 days a week. Plus, you don't spend no money there. The food was cheap, the hotel was cheap, everything was affordable. I mean, you could live in Puerto Rico like a king for $200 a week. You know, and go to the beach and eat the best food, the best restaurant, beautiful Puerto Rican girls want to take you to bed. I mean, we used to call Puerto Rico a paid vacation. We didn't call it work. It was like a paid vacation. I mean, Puerto Rico, brother. I mean, come on, it was gorgeous. But anyway, Brody kept looking at me, So finally he walked over and he held out his hand. I shook his hand. He said, Tony, I'm sorry for what happened. He said, but I had nothing to do with that. And then he told me the story what I just told you about the Von Erp, when they did not want, they told him don't book us. And so he had to do what they wanted to do. He said, but I promise you this, things are going to be different here. He said, I've waited a long time to get in down here. Now to me, getting in didn't mean wrestling. He was been wrestling there for years. For that man, to me, he bought into the company. He was becoming part of the ownership. He said, things would be different for you here, Tony. He said, I promise you that I'm going to do for you here what I should have, what I wanted to do for you in Texas. That's what Brody told me. So anyway, I went to the beach, enjoyed myself for that day, and I looked at the clock. I said, oh shoot, I said, I'm going to be late for the show. So I run to the hotel room, run upstairs, grab my bag. I come back downstairs. Brody is sitting on the steps. Now Brody's the main event. He's a big star. I said, Brody, why you not at the show? I said, I'm running late. I said, you're going to be late too. Him and Dutch Mantell was sitting on the step. So I said, why you sitting there? He said, I'm waiting for my ride to come pick me up. I said, who is your ride? He said, Jose. Now Jose, the guy that killed him. So he was waiting for Jose to come pick him up at the Panama Hotel. So I said, Brody, I got a buddy of mine from the gym. I promised him that if he give me a ride to the gym, because I was running late, you know. I missed my ride. But the guy at the gym said, Tony, I'll take you. He said, it's okay, I'll bring my girlfriend too. I said, yeah, bring whoever you want. I said, you don't have to pay, you get in free. I said, but I need to make the show. So the guy went home. I went to the hotel, the guy went home and got his girlfriend, came back to pick me up. I said, Brody, if you need a ride, you can come with me. I said, I tell the guy at the front desk, just in case Jose shows up, I let the guy know that you had already gone with me, so Jose don't be worrying about you. He said, okay, brother. So Brody got in the car. He sat in the front seat. The girl slid over. So it was Brody sitting here, the girl sitting in the motor, and the guy that owned the gym was sitting here. Me and Dutch Mantell, we were sitting in the back. So we walk into the building, and as soon as Brody walked through that door, Carlos Colon, Victor Jerica, and Jose Gonzalez, they were sitting in a football huddle. And when Brody walked through that door, they did this. Like they saw a ghost. It was like they were surprised to see him. They didn't say nothing about being late or nothing. And I was happy, because I didn't want to get chewed out anyway. Whereas most people know, a lot of people know, I do a little artwork. So I would draw a picture of Mark and Jay Youngblood, and I was almost finished. And I pulled out the picture to draw the picture. And then meanwhile, I saw Jose get up and walk out of the dressing room. I kept on drawing. Brody walked over and saw me drawing. And Brody said, man, I didn't know you could do that. He said, that is great. He said, can you do a picture of my son? He said, I had pictures done of him before, but they were like characters. You get the sidewalk artist, like the character drawn. He said, but you make it look like the person. He said, that is good, Tony. He said, that looked just like them two guys. Can you do my boy? I said, yeah, we're going to be here for a week. I said, I promise you, Brody, I have your picture done for you. I have your picture done for you before you go home. He said, oh, that'd be great. My son would love it. So he reached in his pouch there to pull out a picture of his son. By that time, Jose come back in with a towel wrapped around his hand. I didn't pay. Guys walk around with towels all day long. We don't pay that no attention. See a wrestler walk around with a towel in his hand in a dressing room. I mean, that's not unusual. So he said, Brody, can I talk to you, please? Real nice, very nice. Brody said, sure. Brody turned to go in the shower. Now, none of us guys thought anything about the shower, because that's where guys would go to discuss stuff. They go in the shower, so they had their promises. So as soon as Brody walked through this door, his one foot stepped in, the sucker foot stepped in, and I hear this. I go, what in the hell? And then we hear some scuffling. So I pulled open the shower door, and I saw Brody bent over like this, and Jose standing there with the knife in his hand with the blood dripping off, holding over his head like this. And I reach in with one arm and grab Brody and pull him back. When I pulled him back, the knife came down and come off part of his ponytail. So I pulled Brody back. Brody said, I'm hurt, brother, I'm hurt. Don't let them. He didn't say him. He said, don't let them hurt me anymore. So I pulled Brody back and I tried to grab Jose with the other hand. Carlos Colon ran and cut me off and pushed Jose up against the wall, both hands with the knife in it. They said, no, Jose, no, Jose. And I laid Brody down. And Brody said, don't let him hurt me no more. And I said, don't worry about nothing. I ain't going to let nobody mess with you. So I went to go after Jose again. Carlos stopped me from getting a hold of him again. He said, look, we don't need any more Tony. It's enough excitement for one night. We don't need any more trouble in this room. We don't need no more trouble in this room. So I went over and stood near Brody. Now, here where I learned the business. This is Tony Atlas' first lesson of professional wrestling. It took the ambulance probably about an hour, hour and a half to get to Brody, because it happened at the beginning of the show and people were still coming in the building. So the traffic was backed up blocks long. So the ambulance, it took them 45 minutes to get in the building. So I'm standing over Brody. So everybody come there, Brody. I said, anybody come over here, I'm gonna knock your, excuse my language, people. I said, I'm gonna knock your motherfucking head off your throat and shit down your throat if anybody that come near this man. I mean, I was angry. I put my, I was freaking angry. I was just so, I couldn't believe he done this guy like this, he had his fault, but I didn't see that he deserved that. But anyway, make a long story short, Carlos wanted to come out. I said, Carlos, come over here, I'm gonna knock you out. I swear I'm gonna knock you out. Don't come over here. And then Brody tugged at my leg and said, let him come. And he said, he kneeled down over Brody. He said, anything I can do for you? And Brody said, take care of my wife and kid. I started crying, because Brody's still holding that picture. He got stabbed twice in the stomach. Never let that picture go. He was fighting Jose with one hand because he had the picture of his son in the other hand. He wouldn't let it go. When he laid on the floor bleeding to death, he'd hold that picture of his son in his hand. He held that picture the whole time. Now, Carlos said, don't worry, I'm going to take care of it. Now the ambulance come. There was an old man and an old woman. And Brody was a big man. He was nearly 300 pounds. They couldn't lift the girder up. They had to lift it up until it popped, but they couldn't get it up. So they turned to the dressing room. Here's my lesson. He said, we can't lift him. Can anybody help us lift him? Every wrestler there that was in that dressing room turned their head and started lacing up their boots, started fumbling through the bag. They act like they didn't hear. So I got up, I said, I'll do it. So I squatted down in the squat position, slid my arms underneath Brody. Now at that time I had like a 650 bench, a 420 clean and jerk, an 800-pound squat. So 300 was really not heavy to me then. It is now. 200 is heavy to me now, but at that time it was not heavy. So Brody said, don't drop me. I said, brother, I curl more than what you weigh. So I pulled him up and you hear the click. So then I pushed him on the ambulance. Now the driver said, to keep his company, anybody want to go to the hospital with him so he don't feel so alone. Once again, everybody in that dressing room turned their head. turned their head. Nobody moved. I said, I go. Now, this is what I didn't know. I'll tell you the part I didn't know later. I pulled off the ambulance and leaving the dressing room. There was a guy that was Hercules, not Hayala, but he was a slim guy, Perez or something like that. He was used to be a wrestler. He had a V-shaped built, slender guy. His son became a wrestler, Perez, I think it was, or something like that. But anyway, I grabbed him by his belt with one arm, and I curled him up just like this. And the ambulance is moving. He begged me to let him go. Begged me to let him go. I said, brother, I can't speak Spanish. Somebody got to speak for me. So I get to the hospital, and I said, Tony, I'm just going to repeat what you said, nothing else. I said, you don't have to. I said, I want you to just repeat what I said. So I asked for a doctor. And then I told the doctor that it was a stab. Now, what I didn't know at the time in Puerto Rico, a stab in Puerto Rico is like a cold in America. They don't take it seriously. People get stabbed in Puerto Rico all the time. That's something else I didn't know. Lesson learned, you see? So then I finally found a doctor, and I told him to stab. The doctor walked over. He walked over to a room and opened up the door. And there was people in there with stabs. It was not a stab in Puerto Rico is not an emergency, believe it or not. It's common, very common. So anyway, this doctor turned his back to walk away. Where the hell are you going? I grabbed him around his waist, belly to back, put him on my shoulder just like that. I started walking towards Brody. He's hollering and screaming for security and everything. The guy that walking with me telling me what he's saying. He's telling me these things, I set him down and said, you look at him, I'm going to break a couple of your ribs. I gave him a little squeeze. He said, oh, okay. He pulled the curtain back. Brody got his hand like that. He moved his hand, a pool of blood. Like a swimming pool. I started crying again. He said, we need to get him into emergency right away. This is bad. This is the worst I have seen. We need to get him to emergency right away. So I wanted to try to help out as much as I can, so I took his shoes off. His feet was blue. I said, man, y'all gotta go now. Y'all gotta go now. He said, calm down. I said, y'all gotta go now. I said, I'm gonna hurt somebody. Y'all gotta go now. Y'all gotta go now. I'm going nuts. So finally they get him in the emergency room. I'm pacing back and forth. Finally, after about an hour or so, the doctor come out. He said, we got him stable now. He said he had 2 8-inch cuts. One sliced the intestine. He said, we got that part. He said, we're working on the knife that cut half of his liver. So his liver was cut halfway in two. He said, we're working on that part. He said, but your friend is going to be okay. He said, but I need to ask you something. Now this guy's interpreting for me what the guy's saying. He said, I got to ask you. He said, you have to leave. He said, everybody in the hospital is afraid of you. He said, the police is down in the lobby and they scared to come. He said, one cop came up and saw me and went right back downstairs. The police were scared to come and get me out of there. I had punched holes in walls. You could see all the holes that I punched in the wall. I was just going around punching holes in the wall. I had to relieve that. And I was on the juice too, you know how that was. I was taking up and to draw 50. You know, I was doing like 5 reps. I did that same morning. I did 5 reps in the gym with 565. So I was nobody to be reckoned with at that time, and I was out of my freaking head. So they were scared to death. So finally, I said, "You sure you're gonna be okay?" He said, "Yes. Come back in the morning. You can see your friend. He's gonna be okay, Tony. I promise you." So I left, went back. When I got back to the building, Savio Vega was there, sleep in the dressing room like that. As soon as I walked there, he hear me coming. He go, "Oh, I've been waiting on you. Don't go to your room. They're waiting on you." I said, "For what?" He said, "Because you talking." He said, "Didn't you hear what Jose said when you left the dressing room?" I said, "No, I didn't hear what Jose said." I said, "I don't speak Spanish that well." I knew a little bit, but not a lot. He said, "What's wrong with that Tony Atlas? Do he want to get stabbed too?" I think Tony Atlas needed a stabbing to teach him how to manage his own business. So they had people waiting for me in my room to knock me off. So I walked the beach the whole day and everything. The next morning, I went up with a couple more wrestlers. I got Jose gave me Savio Vega gave me my bag. Abdullah the Butcher, he lied on Vice TV. He lied on Vice TV and said there was no meeting because the meeting was in his room. If you don't believe me, ask Sika. Sika is Raymond Rome's father. Roman Reigns' father. Ask him. He was the guy that went to the police station with me. Because I figured if I had Sika with me and Sika walking down the street, I don't think nobody wanted to mess with us. So I went and gave my report to the police department, told the police what happened and everything. I went back and I checked out the hotel. I went to the airport. And they told me they're going to send me the stuff for the court date and everything. I never received nothing. Dutch Mantel later told me he got his a week after the trial. So Carlos had so much control over that island at that time that they didn't want me to come back. They didn't want me back on that island. They didn't want Dutch back on that island. They didn't want us to testify. So later on, this is what I found out. A guy from Puerto Rico came over to wrestle, and he said he worked at the hospital. They had the guy to do the cleanup with an alternate. Yeah, he told me later that at the moment I left, 2 security guys came up, and they told the doctor to stop working on the wrestlers, on that wrestler, to stop working on them. Let him bleed out. So they went to the hospital, in my opinion, to finish the job. My biggest regret, and I want to apologize to his son, I want to apologize to his wife, my biggest mistake was leaving that hospital. If I feel in my heart, if I have never left that hospital, Brody would have made it. I was his only protection. He couldn't protect himself. There was nobody there to protect that man but Tony Atlas. Once Tony Atlas left out of there, Brody was on his own. And I regret that, and I'm going to take that to my grave. I don't feel proud about that at all. I really regret. I should have never left. I should have never left him. I should have known better. But I was young, angry, and I didn't want to cause any more trouble. And the doctor kept telling me that he can't do his work because he's afraid that I'm going to bust through the door and strangle somebody. I mean, I had everybody scared. So I caused that problem, and where it got me kicked out the hospital and left Brody unprotected. So they went and finished the job after I left, I believe. Later, I hear another story from some other people that's from Puerto Rico. Carlos Colon owned a lot of gambling debts and took Brody money to pay off his gambling debts. That's why when Brody went to get his money back, Brody wanted his shares or his money, one or the other. He either wanted his money or his shares. And they refused to give him either one. So it was over money. They owed Brody money.
And it's hard to believe that, from what we're hearing, that they owed him almost $20,000. Now, it's hard to believe that somebody's life is only worth $20,000.
Yeah.
So, okay, now, after Puerto Rico...
but $20,000 in 80 back there is like $100 grand today. You understand what I'm saying? It's $100,000 a day. But still, that's how the business was. I mean, Eddie Graham would do that. Eddie Graham. You ever hear the story with Ernie Ladd and the Briscoe?
Yeah.
Jerry and Jack Briscoe? Yeah, because he wouldn't put Rocky Johnson over. Ernie said he put him over as long as they don't film it. They turn the camera on. They try to screw Ernie. So Ernie did a count out. He didn't let Rocky Johnson pin him. So then they were gonna call Ernie to the office late at night. They're gonna beat this man up and break his leg. They're gonna break his freaking leg, you know. Ernie took a jack out of the back seat of his trunk and beat the crap out of both of them. The business was, see, in the wrestling business, all the wrestlers turned against me because what happened in the wrestling business always stayed in the wrestling business. Like Jimmy Snuka, what he did stayed in the wrestling business for many years, and how he got out, Snuka put it in his book. If he had left that story out of his book, the rest of the world would have never known nothing. They would have never known the girl was murdered instead of accidentally killed. You know, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. He told 3 different stories about what happened to her. The police had one story, the wrestler had another story, and his book had another one. And that's how that story got out to the rest of the world. But there was a lot of stuff that happened in the dressing room that people still, you take Owen Hart death, that was never investigated. We don't know if somebody went up and cut the rope or nothing. I mean, these are professional people. How did Owen Hart fall? We're professional people. These guys work with the greatest stuntmen in the world. Vince didn't hire amateur stunt people. These guys work with the best in the world. Now, how can they make a mistake like that? You see what I'm saying? And there was a lot of deaths and shit that would happen to wrestlers, but it was kept in the business. It never got out of the business. It never got out to the real world. The only reason people even know about Bruiser Brody because Tony Atlas went to the police station. If I had kept my mouth shut, we wouldn't be talking about Brody either.
Okay, now after Puerto Rico, you were working the independent scene. You started working for Mario Savoldi again. What was that like? And if you don't mind telling people, this actually led to you being homeless afterwards. Can you just tell us a story about how that all unfolded?
Mario caused me to be homeless. See what Mario did, I didn't know this. But I don't hold it against Mario. I love Mario. I love Tommy Savoldi to death. He's like a brother to me. Mario tried to use me to make his business. Vince told Mario, if you use Tony Atlas, I will destroy you. Mario used Tony Atlas. Vince McMahon destroyed Mario, which left me nowhere to go because I was blackballed from the business. But Mario tried to use me. He had me, Alvin Puskett, Scott Puskett, and Bob Orton Jr. used to work for us. To all the guys that used to be with Vince, all of a sudden was working for ICW. In fact, Mario put the first world title on me. Remember that?
Yep.
I became world champion the first time in my life. A single world, not tag team, but the first time I wore a world championship match, a belt was with Mario Savoldi. So Mario tried his best, but in order for Mario to make it as a promoter, Mario have to get rid of Tony Atlas, and he wouldn't do it.
Okay, now.
So in other words, Mario sacrificed his company for me. So I have nothing bad to say about Mario Savoldi. Nothing at all.
Okay, now what led to you being homeless? Like, tell the story about how you met your wife and how you went
what
back.
ended up happening, no promoter in the world would test me. Vince had put the word out, if you use Tony Atlas, I will destroy you. So I was blackballed. I started wrestling professionally before my 20th birthday. You just had me to sign a book. I was 19 years old. I wasn't being put on TV or nothing. That's how they did. You didn't get on TV right away in the older days. Now they put you on TV your first day. Back in the old days, you got to wrestle 2 or 3 days. Being on TV, the promoter want to make sure you knew how to work, that you was a good performer before he put you on TV. Because this is a TV. Thousands of people are watching. You see what I'm saying? They let you work in house shows, stuff like that. But they would not put you on TV until you was good enough to be on TV. So what happened is I went around and tried to get a job to make a living. Well, I never did nothing my whole life but lift weights and wrestle. I had no talent, no ability. So my money ran out. I ended up sleeping in the park. And luckily for me, after being homeless for a year, maybe a year and a half, a lady by the name of Monica Durang came and told me, said, if you need a place to stay, you can stay with me. Well, I married that woman when once I got another break, the curfew, the blackball, the curfew was lifted, and I went back to Saba Simba. I asked that woman to marry me, and me and her been married for 30 years. Right now, my wife, God bless her, she's in the hospital. A year ago, she had a stroke. But I used to go and see her every day, but I can't see my wife right now because of the coronavirus, but we talk every day on the phone. But they get ready to open up visitation a little bit, where we get 30 minutes with our loved one, not a week, but 30 minutes every now and then. So I'm gonna get to see my wife Tuesday for the first time in 4 months. But if it wasn't for my wife Monica, I would have been dead. I would have died in that park.
Okay, now what did you think of the Saba Simba character in general?
I never thought much of it as I was doing it, because the way I was seated, I just got through being homeless. And there was, you know, and now I could eat, and I figured I could get myself back, you know, in the business. But then sure enough, 1 year into the contract, what do you think Vince did? He let me go. Didn't give me no reason. It just stopped it. So then I went to WCW. Cowboy Bill Watts wanted to use me. Dusty Rhodes didn't, because of the threat of the McMahons.
All right, now, how was WCW when you went there after WWF?
It started off real good. I didn't like the way they had me to do. You know, I didn't like using racial slurs against the first black world champion, Ron Summers. Me and Ron Summers is the best of friends. I love Ron. I still love him right now today. You know, and I didn't like, you know, insulting my people and insulting Ron, you know. I figured they should have teamed me and Ron up or something, but they brought me as a heel to fight against Ron Summers. But before me and Ron had a match, they had me to lose to everybody there. And then they put me against the world champion. Now, why you gonna put me against the world champion? Everybody don't beat me but the damn referee. The referee was the only one at WCW never beat me. He had me to lose to Sting, had me to lose to Vader, had me to lose to Kevin Nash. Everybody I stepped in the ring with, Stu Cold Scorpion. I lost. And then he said, now you're gonna fight the champion. But they never let Ron Summers be champion. To them, their champion was Sting. Ron Summers is the world champion, and Sting the main event. How in the hell got be?
Okay, now after WCW, you went back on the independents. One of my personal favorites was the MTV True Life story. Can you get into that and how that came about?
Well, this guy came to me, he wanted to promote wrestling shows. So I was not a promoter. I worked for a very, very good promoter that I had a lot of respect for. They call him the Boston Bad Boy, Tony Rumba. And Tony was an excellent promoter. I mean, he was drawing 1,000, 1,500 people every show. I mean, he was an excellent. So I gave it to Tony Rumba. So the guy didn't like Tony because Tony wouldn't listen to him. So he told me he wanted me to do it. So I took over the book and started running the show for him. Well, anyway, we get this phone call from MTV. And they hear they want to do this program about pro wrestling. And they had 3 segments. The first segment was a training school. So they want to look for somebody where wrestlers go to be trained. The second segment was the independent circuit. And of course, the third segment was going to be the pro, WWCW, WWF, the big league. They did the wrestling school. They did the pro. When they got to the independent circuit, the promoter advertised that MTV going to be there, where every wrestler on the Northeast called me. And they said, Tony, can I be on the show? I want to be on MTV. I said, brother, the call is booked. It's booked. I don't have room for nobody. I walked into the first show we had. I booked for that show about 12 wrestlers. It was a small show. There had to be about 40 wrestlers in my dressing room that I didn't even know that were going to be there. So me and James, we got into a dispute about all these wrestlers. So what they do, they would call me and say, Tony, can I be on the show? I said, no. They called James. James said, yes, you can be on the show. So I said, James, you got to pay all these people. We had a budget. When you know you work, you got a budget you got to go by. So the first night, over half our budget was gone, and we had 2 more shows to do. So I get in an argument with James about, paying. I said, I got to pay all these guys now that you booked. And he said, well, I got more coming tomorrow. I said, well, I'm going to call them all up and tell them not to come. So about 6 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call from James. The shows are canceled. So then that's when I started, at the championship wrestling, started running my own shows. And I never got a backer or a partner again. But I don't feel bad about me. I feel bad about all the good wrestlers I had, that they opportunity to be on MTV. I mean, that would have been a great program. And so what happened, the guy was sitting there, they were up there for a week, and they got nothing to tape. So I got to talking, just like I'm talking to you, about my experience. He said, oh, that'd be great, Tony, to do your experience. And that was the first time I even noticed that people heard that I used to be homeless. And MTV taught me how I used to sleep on the bench, how I met Monica, and all this and that stuff. That first came out on MTV, remember? And that was the first time that they hear my story. So instead of doing about the independent circuit, they did a program about Tony Atlas. So what it was training school, the top shot, and after wrestling is over with. So instead of doing the independent circuit, they did what happened to you after the wrestling. They had to change the whole flow mat because the guy canceled the show and took all the money, pulled all the money out of the two shows we had. And the funny thing about it, we had Springfield College, Springfield, Massachusetts. It was sold out. He would have made all of his money back that one night. Every penny he put in there, and that company would have been one of the top wrestling companies in the country from if that had win. And none of the wrestlers that worked so hard got anything out of it. The only one got anything out of that was Tony Atlas. That's why I don't talk much about it, because I feel like I shouldn't. It shouldn't have been about me. It was never meant to be about. I even asked them, "Can I be on the show?" They said, "No, we don't want you on the show." I was told no, I couldn't be on the show. Finally, I ended up becoming the show.
Okay, now moving forward, probably one of your biggest things in your career, you were inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, how did that feel? Was that one of your special moments in the business? And what a lot of people don't know is you go to a writer to have your speech. Now, we're told that that wasn't the case for you. You wanted to do your own speech. You didn't want any writer involved.
They didn't know. They wrote me a speech. They didn't know. Tony Atlas being Tony Atlas again. I was sitting back, I tried to go by that strip. I walked out, I didn't have my paper. The guy that narrated stuff said, "Where's your speech?" I said, "I'm memorizing." I'm memorizing. I threw that shit in the trash. I didn't memorize nothing. I didn't even look at it. I threw that shit in the trash. So I went out there and I just spoke from my heart. Cause that's how I was trained to do. We trained to ad lib. We're not trained to read a script. We're wrestlers. We're not actors. But as far as the moment concerned, to be honest with you, I was shocked. I was really, really, really shocked. I figured they were done with me forever. I figured I would never, never walk into a WWE dressing room or a ring or have anything to do with the WWE. To me, they was not even on my calendar. I never watched the program. I forgot all about wrestling. I got involved with working with kids. I worked as a counselor to kids. I worked with mentally challenged adults. And I worked with elderly people. And I just became working in the community and doing independent shows. Wrestling with Vince was the last thing on my mind until I got that phone call. To be honest with you, I was completely shocked by it. Never gave it a second thought. But I was really, really honored because I just never figured they would do anything for me. I never thought Vince would do anything for me. Never.
Okay, now briefly after that, you made your return to the WWE on the ECW brand. Now, how much did you think the locker room changed? How much do you think the product itself changed from when you went back to when you went back, even when you were stopping?
When I left, it was wrestling. When I came back, it was sports entertainment. Wrestling died with Hogan. Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Randy Savage, the guys of the 90s, they were the last of the wrestlers. After the Hogan and Stone, the Attitude Era, after the Attitude Era, wrestling was done. Then it became gimmick, story. You know, in the 70s, I can't speak for the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, there were no storylines. Think about it. There was no storyline for Hulk Hogan. There was no storyline for Stone Cold Steve Austin. There was no storyline for Tony Atlas, Rocky Johnson. We just knew who was going to win and who was going to lose. That's all they ever told us. How we did it was totally up to the wrestler. There was no storyline. Wrestling was, the only time you could see real wrestling now is on the independent circuit. That's how it was done. The independent do it the way we always did it. They just they put two guys together. Most times you don't even know the guy you're wrestling. I wrestled many guys, I don't even know their name. We didn't talk about the match before we did it. The referee come to them, they had the heel bad guy in one dressing room, the baby face, the good guy in the other dressing room, and we communicate back and forth with the referee. The referee could come over and say, Tony, they want you over tonight. And he walks away. He said, what would you want to use for a finish? So I said, I use the headbutt. Okay, they go tell the guy, he's going to beat you with the headbutt. That was all the talking that was done. Everything else was the wrestler did themselves. There was no storyline, no strip. It was all ad-lib.
Okay, now even being backstage then, seeing these writers come up with finishes, come up with different things, do you think that's holding the wrestlers back in a way? It's not letting them develop, it's not letting them do what they want to do. It's holding them back when you have a scripted match and you're told exactly what they want you to do.
It's called being smart. See, when they leave there, they never learn the business. They use someone telling them what to do. I use the same philosophy when I work with kids. Let's say you got a little kid. He's 3 years old. You take him out to Applebee's. You turn to this 3-year-old kid, 3 now, and you use these words. What do you want to eat? Now when that kid get 13, that kid is used to making his own decision. So what can, if you can't tell that kid what to do at 3, how can you tell that kid what to do when they get 13? That kid is programmed to make his own decision. He's not programmed to listen to take your advice. You didn't raise him to take advice. You raised him to do what he want to do when they want to do it. When the wrestler reversed back to wrestling, the same with the wrestler. If you got to thank for them and tell them what to do every time they step foot in the ring, what's going to happen to them when they're not able, got nobody to tell them what to do? You go on autograph signings, you see Tony Atlas laughing and joking, connecting with the people. You look at all these guys, they're sitting at a table like this. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to communicate with people. Unless you have to write it down for them. I watch them on the independent circuit, you've probably seen this too. They in the dressing room for 2 hours talking about a 10-minute match. Over and over and over and over and over. They cannot, if you take these wrestlers, independent wrestlers, put one in one dressing room, put one in another dressing room, and tell them go wrestle, they don't know what the fuck to do. They were standing right staring each other. They ain't got a clue how to work that crowd, or how to do it the way. They had to be told, they had to rehearse everything. They couldn't even walk down the street unless you had to practice walking first.
Okay, now we briefly spoke this earlier. Can you tell us about the CM Punk incident?
Okay, they made me what you call a goodwill. They made me what you call a goodwill ambassador. A goodwill ambassador to the WWE before I got my talent contest. So they sent me to Ohio Valley, which was a training school with Vince at the time, before Triple H got his own training center. And they had me to talk to the people. But anyway, one of the guys that worked there told me that he didn't like CM Punk. Now, I didn't know who Punk was, because I never watched the program. You know, I didn't know who Punk was. So Punk was talking to Zack Ryder when he was in class. And I didn't like the idea of they talking while I'm trying to teach. So I told Punk to shut his mouth, or I come and shut it for him. Somehow they got back to the office, and because it got on the internet and stuff. And that was the end of me and Punk. But what Punk said to me was, Tony, what you talking about is never going to happen again. Wrestling have changed a lot. And I said, well, if they had changed that much, why did Vince have me to come down to talk to you guys about how to do it? You know, so when I was doing Wrestlemania one year, I walked up to CM Punk, I shook his hand, and I apologized to him because he was right and I was wrong. He kept telling me, there's no more wrestling, Tony. Wrestling don't exist no more. It's all about entertainment now. And that made me mad, you know? And I wanted to fight CM Punk about it, you know?
Now, what did you think of his UFC fights? Did you think karma was in it for him? Think he should have probably trained harder before he thought about stepping in the UFC ring?
No, he should have done what we used to do in the olden days. Go into a bar and get in a fight. That's how we used to do in the olden days. You have to practice fighting for real before you fight for real. You understand what I said? You have to make sure you can do it for real, brother. It's kind of like going to the gym and you do 200 pounds on a machine, and then you get the free weights and found out that you can't do 200 pounds on the free weight because the free weight is a lot different, as you know, from working out than a machine. You could leg press 800 pounds on a leg press, but then you try to squat 800 pounds, whole new ball game. So what he should have done first is got into some. He had the money. I would have just paid some people just to fight me. Because in the bar, nobody fights now. You know, everybody punks now. Everybody pull out a gun or shoot, you know. If you got to shoot somebody, to me, you're a punk. You can't fight. You got sugar in your blood, you know. But I would have just hired some guys to just come by the house and fight with me just to learn how to do it for real. Because he pretended to fight for so many years that I think what happened to him when he got out there, he forgot he was with UFC. He thought he was with WWE. That happened with an old-time wrestler one time named Paul Jones. The guy jumping around Paul Jones, boom, threw a punch, but it was a working punch. He was in the habit of throwing working punches. He threw so many working punches, he could not throw a real punch anymore. You understand what I'm saying? Even if he tried to hit it, he would pull it. Because he don't train his body to throw working punches. When we hit this guy was not a worker. Promoters all the time, the only difference between a wrestler and a fan, the fans don't work. They lousy workers.
Okay, now after that you went to the WWE Legends House show. Now, how did that come about? What was the experience like in general? And Hacksaw Jim Duggan, what was the heat between the two of you?
I could not tell you. When you watch the program, I was talking about how I help kids. Now, how are we going to get in a fight or how I help kids? I don't know. We're going to get in another fight or me getting a beer. Here's a guy that been hit with chairs, chain, fall on concrete floor. My elbow bumped against him. He wanted to fight. You understand? I think, looking back on it, they put him up to it. See, the contract, a lot of people don't know, but I can tell you this part of the contract. They say anybody that get into physical altercation will be automatic dismissed from the show and will receive no pay. What I think they try to do is to get me to get in a fight. So they could kick me off the show and everybody get paid but Tony. But it would have made the show great. You understand what I'm saying? The show would have been fantastic. I think the only reason they put me on the show is so I could get in a fight with someone. You understand what I'm saying? Because if I hit somebody, how great would that show have been? You understand what I'm saying? It would have been twice, 10 times better than what it was. Yep. You know, people wanted to see some action. So that was Vince's way of doing action. But he was so sleek at it that he wanted me to do it and not pay me for it. Because you know they would have kicked me off and I would not receive a pay. Well, what Vince was paying was a lot of money. And I needed that money. So I swallowed everything. He kept doing stuff he knew would piss me off.
Now, speaking of shows, you also did Dark Side of the Ring, which we briefly talked about earlier. What did you think of the Brody story in general? Did you think it was everybody that spoke on it?
Never seen it.
You never seen it yet?
They say they're going to send me a tape because I don't get Vice TV.
Okay.
You know, I got cable. I got every station but Vice, believe it or not. So the only thing I know about it, what people tell me. I never saw the show.
Okay, now after that, you wrote your book. Can you tell the people
my
about?
My book came out in 2010.
Can you tell people about that a little bit?
Yeah, you can go to crowbarpress.com, and if you forget, all you have to do is so simple. Type in Tony Atlas book, and all the information on how to order it and everything, and even some excerpt online that you can read online about different portion of it. But the book is called Too Much Too Soon. I got that from Wahoo McDaniels. He said that about me. Because they was pushing me so fast, and because most of it took a wrestler 6 to 8 years to become a main eventer. I was a main eventer in 8 months. In less than a year, I was a main eventer. I was wrestling on cards with tag team with Wahoo McDaniels in the main event, and I didn't know what the hell they were doing out there. I was a title. I had one winning title. Me and Tommy Rich. We were both 2 green kids. We were Georgia champion. We didn't know our elbow from a hole in the ground. We didn't know anything. But because we were good draws at the time, they did made us main event. So what Wahoo McDaniel told the promoter, you spoiling them guys, you're giving them too much too soon. And that's how I thought it was a great title from the book, because it explained what happened to people when you give them too much at once. You lose appreciation for it, because I never worked for nothing in wrestling. It was given to me so easily. It came to me so easily, so quick. I didn't have to work for it. You understand?
Yep.
So I didn't have appreciation for my position. I never got to appreciate who and what I were, because how it came to me. So I figured it came so easy. If I lose it, it's gonna come easy again.
Yep.
I was spoiled.
Okay, now what are your thoughts on the wrestling product today, as AEW, today's WWE? What do you think the reason is for the ratings dropping so low in today's product?
My wife Monica gave the best answer. When I went and took her to a wrestling match, I'm driving home. I said, honey, what do you think of the show? She said, hell, I think I could whoop half of them guys. See, wrestling was a sport that only very few people could do. Then it became a sport where anybody could be a wrestler. No matter what you look like, no matter nothing. Anybody on the planet could be a wrestler. You could be 95 pounds. You could be 300 pounds. The weight, size, look, nothing matter. If you got enough money to pay to go to school, and if you would work cheap for pennies, you could become a wrestler. When a guy go into the ring and wrestle for $10 now, this wrestler would travel 200 miles, spend $100 to go to a show, and the promoter give him $10. He's lucky if he get $25. He's lucky if he get $25. When you get a guy that sacrifice and do all that for $25, see, a promoter don't care about talent no more. They don't care about what they put out in front of the people. When you put guys out there, that guys sitting in the audience looking at them, and they say, oh, I could whoop him. People are not blind. I'm a senior citizen. I say this on many programs. You ever say this before? I beat the shit out of Seth Rowley. And I'm a senior citizen. He couldn't whoop a senior citizen. CM Punk cannot whoop a senior citizen. People see that. When you try to take somebody that look like they can't whoop their way out of a wet paper bag, in real life they can't. I mean, if you got more wrestling like Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, guys like that, now you're giving the people their money worth. It's kind of like going to McDonald's. You see this picture, right? Of this beautiful hamburger. Nice big thick piece of meat, lettuce, everything looks so beautiful in the picture, right? Then you buy the damn thing. And all of a sudden you say, what the fuck? That's why the ratings didn't drop. Because people is getting tired of fakeness. They want to see something real. Right now, I would say the only wrestler out there, with the exception of Brock Lesnar, that people could believe is really that character, is that kid, I told you his name earlier, Sonny Kiss. Because he's not faking. He's the real deal. When you saw Alvin Puskin, you saw the real deal. You saw George Animal Steel, you saw the real deal. You saw Andre the Giant, you saw the real deal. You saw Tony Atlas, you saw the real deal. You saw Ric Flair. You see Ric Flair in the ring, you see him in person, same thing, nothing changed. Ric Flair didn't become Ric Flair one day, and then the next day he playing something else, another character. They treat it like it's acting. George Animal Steel, he was George Animal Steel his whole career. Tony Atlas was Tony Atlas' whole career. Hulk Hogan was Hulk Hogan's whole career. That's why we lose rated, because the people don't have nothing they can believe in no more. People in this country want to believe in something. We first get our first disappointment when we found out there's no Santa Claus, there's no Easter Bunny, there's no Tooth Fairy. Then we become teenagers and we get into music, we love music. Then all of a sudden we found out that the guy record you listen to every night and sing is a pedophile. Then the guy you watch run football and the Hall of Fame and the Heisman Trophy is a double murderer. How many people leave in OJ? And all of a sudden they were all left down. Here, the hero to America for blacks and whites, OJ Simpson. All of a sudden you find he's a freaking murderer. Then you found out this other guy played basketball, one of the greatest basketball players. He's a crackhead. Then you found out this guy sing and do this, all this other stuff. I don't want to call his name because of his family. He's a pedophile. You go to church and you found out you can't leave your kids in church without one of them getting messed with. See, we believe in religion. Then that was taken away from us. We believe in the politician. Then that taken away from us. So wrestling was the one thing that was left that gave the people something they could believe in. They believe in Alvin Puskin. They believe in Don Morocco, Mr. Fuji. They believed these was real characters because they didn't change who and what they were. Alpha and Seeker, the Wild Samoan, they was Alpha and Seeker. Why do you think The Rock is so popular? He stayed The Rock. No matter what character he played to the people, that's The Rock. You understand what I'm saying? He was The Rock when he started his career. And even in Hollywood, and one of the top paying actors in the world, he stayed what? The Rock. Arnold Schwarzenegger became the Terminator. When he became governor of the United States, what did they call Arnold Schwarzenegger now? The Terminator. He was something we could believe in. What on the WWE or AEW that they got other than Sonny Kiss on one side and Brock Lesnar on the other side that they could believe in? You just had that UFC girl to badmouth WWE real bad. What was her name?
Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey.
Made all that money and then trashed the business.
But you know what? You know what they should have done? What they would have done in the olden days? They would have took her out of the ring for 6 months, train her, have her to come back and challenge Ronda Rousey. I know who could whoop Ronda Rousey's ass. I know she could do it. I never met her. What that big Samoan girl?
Nia Jax.
Boy.
Yeah.
I know Samoan people.
I think she can beat half of the guys.
I know Samoan people. You know, I traveled with Slooker, who was Fiji, was Samoan with Fiji. I traveled with Alpha and Seeker. I traveled with the baddest, the two baddest of them all, Peter Maivia and Haku. Haku is a senior citizen. And right now, you put Haku in the ring with half of the WWE, with half of the wrestlers got, who you think gonna come out on top?
Haku.
Who in the hell could beat Haku? Even now.
Yep.
Even now, you look at Haku, you say he would kill him. And they know Haku would kill him. I know that type of individual. They very, for some reason, the natural, powerful, it's natural to them. It's not fake, it's natural. You understand what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So I know this. If they see, in the older days, that's what they would have done. They would have got one of the shooters and said, if you think wrestling is fake, you get up here. Vince needs to do something to make the people believe again. America is dying for something to believe in. We try very hard to believe in our military, but unfortunately we ain't won a war since World War II. They put our soldiers in these little scrimmages, and then they tell our soldiers not to fight. I trained a lot of soldiers being a personal trainer. And some of the stuff they tell me I think is ludicrous. Rules of engagement against the Taliban. What freaking rules do the Taliban go by? You got our guys playing by the rules. These guys not playing by the rules. One guy told me that in order for them to shoot a top commander, they have to call the White House first to get permission. I said, shit, they kicked me out of the army because if I see that son of a gun, I'm going to blow his brains, I'm going to shoot him. I'm not going to need no permission. Somebody shoot at me, I want you to tell me when I can shoot back. They don't let our soldiers fight. My brother went to Vietnam, told me the same thing in Vietnam. He said, we never declared war. I didn't know that. He said, we were policing. All them dead bodies and you policing? They would just take little kids, my brother told me. They would strap explosive to a child, the Vietnamese. They would send that child into an army camp asking for chocolate. Because they put them little chocolate things in the canteen for the soldier. The soldier would reach and give the kid a piece of candy, and the kid pull a button and blow up him and have the platoon. But so when they did that, the soldier would shoot him. Oh, you're a child killer, you're a child killer. That kid would blow you up. We can't fight a war with one hand tied behind our back. See, we are begging for something to believe in. We hear a lot of people tell us stuff on TV all day long. And wrestling is a reflection of society. The guy that made the WWE famous was the Ayatollah Khomeini. Vince got the idea to take an Iranian, which he had, and make him champion. What would Hogan be without the Sheik? Who was Hogan going to beat to make him that big? He became popular, people forget this, for beating one person, the Sheik. He didn't have to beat 1,000 people to become a big star. He only had to beat what? One, the Iron Sheik. And why was the Iron Sheik such a hot item during that? The Iranian crisis. Yep. The Ayatollah was holding American hostages. And Vince had an Iranian. Nikolai Volkov's career was all over with. And then the Russians shot down the career airline. All of a sudden, Nikolai had a career all over again.
Sergeant Slaughter too.
Sergeant Slaughter too. Started all over again for Slaughter. If it wasn't for the Russians shooting down their career in Ireland, wasn't for Ayatollah Khomeini, where would Slaughter be? I beat Slaughter before that, remember?
Yep.
He wrestled me, I beat him every time he stepped into the ring. They had no use for Sergeant Slaughter until the Ayatollah Khomeini came along. So Vince was always the guy, and he made me Saba Simba. What happened during the time he made me Saba Simba? They released Nelson Mandela. Vince always, people say, why you talk politics so much? Vince always followed the river. He followed what is going on in real life. The only thing that Vince left alone, and I'm glad he did, but he knew not to touch it, was 9/11. He never shot anything after that. That would have cost him. He knew that. He left that alone. But that was the first time he left anything alone. You know, it was 9/11. He didn't fool with 9/11. Yep. But Vince makes fun of the Bible all the time. 3:16, that's John 3:16. Undertaker, devil worshiper. Anything that is anti-God, Vince would do. Because nobody believes in who no more? God.
Yep. All right, we have one last question for you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Let me ask, I'm going to leave this question out there for the public. So they really understand who Tony Atlas is. I feel so bold about it that I'm going to offer this amount. I would give anybody $1 million cash, and I would pay all the taxes on that $1 million if anybody in America could tell me one day out of 365 days that we, as a country, not as a group, not as an individual, but as a country, give to God. God do not have one day of 365 days, but we all get out there and say we Christian. We all say we believe in God, but we don't have time for him. Not one day. When I was a kid, we gave God 52 days. It was called the Sabbath. Every Sunday was God's day. We took that from God. Christmas, we kicked God to the curb and put a fat guy in a, no offense to fat guys out there, we took a fat guy, put in a red suit, and that's his day. The day that Jesus risen from the grave, we gave that to an Easter bunny and a duck. Not one day have we gave to God. And he's in the Constitution. He's on every money. We love money. You can't look at one piece of money. I don't care if it's 1 cent, 5 cents, 10 cents, 25 cents, 50 cents, or $1. It say, in God we trust. Bullshit, we need to take it off of there. We don't trust in them no more. We ain't got one day for God. That's why things are the way, we have nothing to believe in. Once you lost belief in God, you will lose belief in everything else. For I am the way and I am the light. I wanted to get that out there. I'm sorry to say that, but I feel like I'm letting God down for all that he has saved me so many times. So many times. He gave me, this is hard for you to believe. I know you got another question. I have never worked for anything a day in my life. Never. It all came to me. My daughter always said, "You so lucky." There's no such thing as luck. It's a blessing from God. You interviewing me, I look at you as a blessing. God sent you to me. You came out of nowhere. Became a friend. I never met you before. And we had talked many, many times. You were sent there by God. God is guiding all of it. And to tell this country, you want to make Mr. President, I love you. You know I know you. You know me. You say you want to be your bodyguard because you thought I had the biggest arms you ever seen in your life. Mr. President, you want to make America great again? Get people to believe in God again. That what we did. That what made us great. We was a God-fearing country. We were the guys that fight against evil. We are the people that fought. I hear a lot of black people say, "Well, we were slaves." You were a slave before you came here. They bought slaves. They didn't make you one. You was already one by our own people. But what America did do, what they did do 150 years ago, they shared their blood on the battlefield. More white American died for the freedom of black people. Called the Civil War, my brother. All them dead bodies, there wasn't black bodies laying out there. There was white bodies laying out there, putting their life on the land to free a race of people. Now it's up to every black person in the world to show some appreciation. How you show appreciation to America? You become a part of it. You don't burn the buildings down. You don't criticize nothing. You get an education. You don't destroy your neighborhood. You don't make white people feel like they wish they never done it. That's what you do. You make the world believe that the fight was worth it. We just lost a great leader in Congress. You want Martin Luther King. You want Martin Luther King to think if Martin Luther King was alive today, would he march today? For what? People died for us to have this freedom. People died for black Tony Atlas to become a WWE Hall of Famer. So for me to spit on this country, I show a disappreciation for every person that died in the Civil War, every person that marched across them bridges. And last but not least, so you really, really know who I am. I don't care if you like me or not. I hope you like me. I stand for the flag. I kneel for God.
3, 2.
All right, Tony, we want to say thank you for answering our questions today and taking the time out of your day. We appreciate it. Is there anything you want to say, any final thoughts?
Yes, McMahon, if you want to really, really to see if you can destroy Tony Atlas, put me in the ring with Brock Lesnar. Tony Atlas versus Brock Lesnar. Don't give me no strip. Don't give Brock no strip. Don't tell me to win or lose. Don't tell Brock to win or lose. Give the people something they can believe in. I'm an old man now, Vince. You should not be afraid to do this. Brock should not be afraid of me. You should not be afraid of me. I'm an old man now, Vince. Why don't you send your young stud and see what he could do against a wrestler? Not a sport entertainer, a wrestler.